Good day everyone, and welcome back to OBS Metal Dash. Part 2 of the 67-68 Camaro tilt steering column build from GM Parts. And if you've seen part 1, then you've seen that this is the motorhome steering column that we're going to take apart today. And I'm going to show you how to take this little girl apart. Let's start right here. To take the cap off, you don't want to use any kind of a pulling tool on the inside. It's going to use this little thin sheet metal, and you're going to mess it all up really bad. You want to take your flat blade screwdriver, and at the bottom of the cap, on the ignition housing, you'll see the difference where the two, there's a little line right here. You just kind of push down where the line starts and tap, then you'll free up the cap from that. This one was on there pretty good, and it took a minute or two for me to get it loose, and I had to put the screwdriver right here to tap it loose a couple times. Don't put it in the tilt lever, and most certainly don't put it on this little bitty guy right here. He's real small. Put it right here and just give it a light tap once or twice, because we're going to weld this hole up anyway, and that'll take it loose from here, and then you can take it off the rest of the way. And when I got this core, there was wasn't any screws in the turn signal switch. So there's 3 shoulder bolt screws in here that you can take off, and this will stay in place when you take the cap off. And it's easier to take this off after you've taken the cap off. It's the first thing to remove. Then you can remove those 3 screws. This comes off, goes in the trash can, and keep the 3 screws. So now we got the cap off. The next one is the spring down here at the bottom. That's your tilt spring. And you'll want to push, use your Phillips screwdriver, a big one. Push in and turn hard counterclockwise. And it's just a spring and a cup. That's all it is. Now next, I'm not 100% sure. I think this was a 13/16 socket that I made this out of. But there's a nut. There's a nut right here. There's a nut right there, and it's a 12-point nut with a weird size to it. The only one I could ever find was this 13/16. But this part's too tall for a deep set socket, so you have to. So I cut it off, and I used an old steering wheel thing from probably the 30s or something like that. So just tap it on, and then you need something to hold the shaft. And then this will unscrew. You do not want to use any kind of impact or fast screwdriver on here. You want to take it slow, because this is a lock nut, and if you go too fast, you'll damage the inner lining right here, which is the locking portion of it. So save that. And the next is the got 2 parts of the bearing races right here. You got a lock, and then you got the actual bearing race. They come off pretty easy. You can just pull it off with your fingers. There's the locking retainer ring right there, and then the inner race. 2 parts. Keep those. Don't lose them, because you can't find them. Next part is going to be the tilt pins. Take the Lyle tilt pin tool that I told you about in the last video, and it will screw into the tilt pin like this. Now, this is beveled. There's a bevel on it. So that goes to the back of the column, and that goes towards the front of the column. See how it's beveled a little bit, because this has a little bit of a bevel to it. Screw that in. And a 1/2 inch wrench. Okay, now we got both of the tilt pins out, and the ignition housing is extremely easy to remove after that. Put the tilt lever back in. I like to do it, I always put my thumb up here and just kind of use that for leverage and just grab a hold of it and it comes straight off. Now when you pull it off, pull straight off, because these bearings are very delicate. This one, you can kind of sort of find it here and there, it's floating around, but don't break that one because you can't find it. It's almost impossible to find. They don't make it. They don't reproduce it. If you're a bearing manufacturer out there, you should reproduce it. Okay, I already took the bolt out of the coupler at the bottom. It just taps off. The motorhomes, all the motorhomes come with a coupler like this. It's generally too small to use on a column, but I never throw these away. I always keep them, and the screw, the bolt goes in it. We're not going to use it on the build, but I keep them for however, maybe I might need it somewhere. And then the shaft, I use a rubber mallet. Okay, we're gonna have to do some work on that one. Okay, sometimes these are a booger to get out. It doesn't matter if you tear the shaft up, if you have to cut it off, sometimes they're a little rusty right there and it takes a minute to get it out. If you hammer it with a regular hammer, you'll flour this over and you can't get it past the bearing. So if for some reason you can't get this out, just cut it off because you're not going to use the shaft anyway. And next is the tilt housing. Oh boy, those were loose. Most of the time they are. A lot of times they just fall right out. Okay, here's the ignition housing, or the tilt housing, sorry. It's in good shape. It's not busted up or nothing. We won't need that. So these don't generally break. The later model ones are usually cracked right here, but these older ones are still in always good shape. Okay, now we need to take this part out. There's a little clip inside here, and that's where the straight screwdriver and an angle. You can use a 90 like this or a 45, either way. See that clip inside there? It picks up. Let's try this one. There, it comes right off. You get, when you grab it just right, it just snaps right off, just a little clip. And there's a little washer. Behind it. Okay, so now at the bottom, there's another small clip on the bearing. I don't know if you'll be able to see it in the video, but I'll pop it off. At the bottom of the steering column, is the little cover and the clip. Pop that off. And you can save this one, but sometimes these fit on the other columns and sometimes they don't. They're broken, busted, bang on the inside. But you can save this one if you want the smoother one without the little lip. I'll show you about that later. So now we have the column is ready to come apart. Let's take the mass tube away from the shift tube. And like I said before, we're going to hit on the shift arm at the bottom of the column. And if you line up this right here with the opening, it slides right out. We're going to keep this, and we're going to cut it off right about there. So now we have everything we need. This just pops right out. Pull it out from the bottom like that. There's a washer. Make sure it's the wave lock style washer. And then this comes right off. And there we are. I'm going to keep this because we're going to cut it off right here. I'll pause the video and we'll be back to do some more work.